Okay, so April and May just absolutely flew by, so I'm going to go through all the books I read in April and May and let you know whether I would recommend them with just a yes, no, or maybe. So the first book I read in April was Bunny by Mona Awad. This was weird. I would give this a maybe to a yes, kind of depending on your tolerance for magical realism. It definitely got very, very funky. I give this about like 3.5 stars to 4 stars. It was hilarious, but super, super weird. So maybe. Next, I read The Ragpicker King by Cassandra Clare. This is the next book in the Swordcatcher series. The Swordcatcher was very, very slow, but there was a lot of world building that happened, and that world building really paid off going into The Ragpicker King. I would give this an absolute yes if you can get through the Swordcatcher. I'm now obsessed with the series, so yes. Of course, I read Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This takes place in the Hunger Games world. Absolutely yes. I cried like a little baby by the end of this one. This story covers Haymitch's storyline, and it was absolutely heartbreaking, so yes. And moving right along to May, I read 4 books in May. So the first one I read was called Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. Now, this one is the sequel to Ninth House, and I would say that this is a maybe dark academia, dark magic, takes place at Yale, but maybe. I did like it better than Ninth House though. So the next book I read was Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. Now I had recently watched the 1993 version of the movie, and it quickly became like one of my favorite movies of all time. I was a little nervous to read the book because sometimes when I watch the movie first and I read the book, I have a really hard time just because like all the characters are in my head already. But I will say that this book is different enough from the movie that it still stayed interesting, and I really enjoyed it. You can definitely tell that this was written in 1990, just like the portrayals of women and children and other characters, like you can tell it's very dated. That said, the science fiction in this is absolutely fantastic. I actually ate all of that up, so I would give this a yes. Next, I read One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. Now, I believe this is the same author who wrote the Atlas Six. This is a magical mob Russian Romeo and Juliet retelling. Takes place in New York City. I would say definitely yes. It was such a great and fun read. Finally, I read The Road of Bones by Demi Winters. I kind of fell for this gorgeous cover, especially like if I don't necessarily like know the book and I see a cover like this at a bookshop, I just can't help myself. And I did enjoy it. It was a lot of fun. It's like a Viking inspired fantasy. I would say maybe to no. Like I wouldn't feel a loss if I hadn't had read this book. I remember some elements, but it doesn't stick out in my mind. So no to maybe. All right, so that's my reading wrap up for April and May. Let me know what books you've read in the last couple of months.